The Tulsi twins have been convicted and sentenced after almost 6 years behind bars. They were arrested back in 2016 after pleading guilty to attempting to leave South Africa in order to join the Islamic State in Syria. Now, for Jonathan Shapiro, senior cartoonist at Daily Maverick, popularly known as Zapiro, the ruling took him back to moments in 2016 when the two young Islamic recruits planned to kill him. He joins us now this hour here on eNCA to reflect on that period. Mr. Shapiro, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. How are you feeling today, a day after the plea bargain that led to the sentencing of the Tulsi twins, Brandon Lee and Tony Lee? What's going through your mind?
Well, you know, the real chilling time for me was when I actually heard, and so that was really chilling, and I can talk about that. I can also say that in the interim, over the 5 years that they've been in jail, I was under the impression that, you know, these were young kids who'd been somehow radicalized. I still believe that, but I don't believe radical politics is a problem, but the kind of politics that then says it's okay to go and blow up people and, you know, plant bombs and assassinate people. Of course, I think that's completely wrong. But I felt that they should get a trial, and it appeared that they were sitting for 5 years. So yesterday, only yesterday, or sort of the evening of the day before, when I first started hearing what was happening, I suddenly realized that it was actually the defense that was keeping them in jail, in a sense. They were not ready. They kept saying they were not ready to go to trial. And that changed things a lot. And it appeared as well as if the state's case was so solid, including these various assassination attempts and the bombs that they were going to plant, and you know, all the wherewithal that they'd got to actually make these bombs, and the connections that they'd made outside of the country. All of this stuff was so solid that they eventually, you know, 11 years and 8 years are pretty serious sentences, and that they incorporate that 5 years, you know, they'll still have time to do both of them. So, you know, I did think yesterday, back to your first question, it's chilling again, thinking, you know, that they were really serious, and, you know, they did plan to kill me with small arms or explosives or poison. And it took me back to when I first heard about it, which was actually in 2017.
Yes.
The Hawks contacted me in 2017, and they had been planning to do this in 2015.
How scared were you way back in 2017?
At that point, I was, that really hit me very hard, because, you know, the Charlie Hebdo killings, which had happened in Paris, were only a couple of years before that. And the Danish Prophet Muhammad cartoons, that whole debacle, and there were, you know, people who died during the all sorts of events after there'd been assassination attempts on a number of the cartoonists who drew the Prophet. And let's be clear about this. The reason that they were targeting me was because I'd also done a Prophet Muhammad cartoon. They had said explicitly in the communication between them and this operative outside the country, this guy said to them, this cartoonist, I think they said the Jewish cartoonist, Zapiro, is a legitimate target because he portrayed the messenger of Allah. Now, that remains a problem for me. If there are people who still think, you know, that one should be a target for assassination for that sort of thing, that is a very, very serious threat to freedom of expression. It's a threat to satirists. It's a threat to media, and it's a threat to civil society. So it is. I mean, it's certainly, I felt fear, and I remember that fear, but that fear hasn't gone, because even now, my talking to you on national television is saying, well, you know, that was the reason. So people like that could do this sort of thing again.
Yeah, the risk is still there, because as you eloquently state there, Mr. Shapiro, the reason that they were using as a basis to target you still remains. And if there's anybody out there still believing that they will still regard you as a target, And is that, I mean, you say you're still a little bit fearful now, but I mean, how do you hope that things may happen going forward? And I'm asking this against this background, if I may, just give me a second to explain. We just got yesterday the President of the Republic, Matamela Ramaphosa, giving the green light for the report on the July riots of last year to be released. And they are scathing, the report is scathing against our security establishment about lack of crime intelligence and the police who were overstretched and overwhelmed, and they need to be held accountable. The report is pointing a direct finger at the cabinet of Ramaphosa for really not having done its job properly. So we are sitting as South Africans and wondering if we're safe at all, but you've got a kind of, you had your name was targeted, you are being targeted. I mean, how safe would you feel?
Look, I couldn't agree with you more to link the two things. Absolutely, it is shocking how bad, in what a bad a state the intelligence services are, and all because of ANC infighting, because they didn't want to collect intelligence on certain people and factional things. There were some people who were quite happy for things to foment in that particular way. So that is a threat to all of us. And it's a threat, of course, in certain areas. It may be more of a threat than in other areas. But I mean, it's a threat across the country. But then when you have a situation where people are maybe individually targeted, as I was for this particular reason, look, I have to say that in that instance, back then, they actually did pick it up. But who knows whether these kind of things will be picked up properly, and who knows whether they'll be acted on, because there are some people who are quite happy to see certain, to see people taken out.
The cynic in me,
a very difficult situation.
Yeah, the cynic in me is saying that maybe they were picked up thanks to foreign intelligence. Who knows? Because we know there's cooperation. Sometimes certain things are picked up by foreign intelligence agencies, and then in collaboration with our own South African police services, then they are able to move. But be that as it may, don't you think the trial should have gone ahead? I mean, you said you were surprised that the defense itself had delayed the trial for such a long time for various reasons. But in my mind, I'm thinking, if the trial had gone ahead, we would have got to the bottom of if these two young men had been recruited by ISIS. I mean, who's the handler and how deep or how wide and stuff like that. It's like now we will never know exactly what happened here, because everything has been done in secret, which was the purpose of the plea bargain.
I completely agree with you as well. I think that the trial should have gone ahead. Look, plea bargains, they always have that aspect to them, that there's aspects that are going to be unsatisfactory to the public, unsatisfactory to some of the people who might have been potential victims or actual victims of crimes committed or conspiracies, in this case a conspiracy to commit crimes and assassinations. And I do feel kind of hard done by that the trial wasn't, the trial didn't happen. I mean, that said, I would have felt worse if they'd done a plea bargain and got off completely, and some of these things that they did plan to do had not been included in the sentencing, because clearly they actually were ready to do these things, and the state had solid evidence on some of it. Although, I saw things by a statement by the Media Review Network questioning those things. And, that's always going to happen. There are always going to be questions when you have this sort of plea bargain and the behind-the-scenes kind of deals that are done.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan Shapiro, senior cartoonist at Daily Maverick. Please stay safe, keep safe, and keep on doing your brilliant work. Most of it is satirical, but it goes to the point sometimes of cartooning really our situation. And sometimes some things you can't say, like we've got this platform. Sometimes we can express ourselves, but you put it down in your cartoons and it hits home.